And the successor in the British Army to the Centurion was this tank. This was a Chieftain tank, and this was a tank that we had mainly through the Cold War. And we knew the Russians had an awful lot of tanks. We were never going to be able to match them tank for tank. So we decided we were going to build a very sophisticated, very powerful tank that would be able to take on, he was going to have to take on at least 4 or 5 Russian tanks if he was going to win. And the Chieftain, when it came into service, was by far the best tank in the world. Now you can see the gun on that tank. This is what they call a high velocity 120mm gun. So high velocity, the rounds coming out the end of that barrel with a tremendous amount of force, 120mm, 12 centimetres across the end of the barrel there. And when this gun was firing at another tank, because that's what they thought tanks were going to be doing, trying to knock out each other's tanks all the time, it didn't fire a bullet-shaped round, it fired a piston out the end of the barrel. Now inside that piston, about 13 inches long, is a metal dart, and they made that metal dart out of tungsten, which is twice the weight of steel, or a bit later on something called depleted uranium, which is a waste product from the nuclear industry. And the idea is that piston flies towards the enemy tank, the sides of it come away, the dart goes forward, and it's going at supersonic speed. It's one of the fastest things on Earth when it's fired. And just by the pure kinetic energy, in other words, just by the pure way behind it, it will smash its way through the enemy tank. It doesn't explode, there's no explosions on it at all. It's just like you throwing a stone as hard as you possibly can, and just the force behind that stone will take it through something. Very accurate gun. They got it to one stage, they were firing at it targets out to 3 kilometres away. They got it so that they could hit the target 3 kilometres away 98 times out of 100 with the very first round. And that's staggeringly accurate. In World War II, you tended to fire 1 round over, 1 round under, and with any luck, the 3rd round would be on the target. This fellow, frankly, if this gun's pointing at you, you've had it. And it was so powerful that, yes, it would knock out a tank quite often with its very first round. Again, you've got a crew of 4 in there, 3 guys in the turret doing the same as they were doing on the Centurion. Driver's down the front, now he's right in the middle of the front of the tank, and as he drives it, he's almost lying on his back in what they call a supine position. And the idea there is if he's lower he is, the lower the tank can be. And the lower you are as a tank, the less of a target you are to the enemy. So these were all things that went into the design process. Very thick armour plate. Over 60 tons in weight, the Chieftain tank. The downside of this was the engine. Unfortunately, this was the era of British Leylands. The Leyland L60 multi-fuel engine was put in the back of the tank. It was supposed to be able to drive on petrol, diesel, bottle of vodka in the back. It was still supposed to work. It didn't. It was the one real weak point. And a bit earlier in the week, I just managed saying that, and what happened, this Chieftain tank broke down in front of us, and it wouldn't go any further. Again, it was the engine. So engine wasn't good. And when foreign governments bought the Chieftain from Britain, they insisted a new engine went inside. So we've got another example of this tank in the collection called the Cali that was sold to the Middle East. Engine decks much higher, a new diesel engine in the back. If you notice that gun on the Chieftain, one of the other great advantages was by this generation they worked out a way of making the gun fully stabilised. So the gun can lock onto a target, and it doesn't matter where the hull goes, the gun will remain locked on the target, so you could fire accurately on the move. Second World War, tanks would have to do this. They'd have to stop and aim the gun, which of course as soon as you have stopped to aim, it means you're an easier target to hit by the enemy. I wasn't much of a bang today. So you aim the gun, but the great thing is this fellow here, if he can fire don't move, the good thing about that, of course, is that you're a much harder target to hit. And they were being able to fire at an enemy tank very accurately as they move along. Now, as part of the training for a Chieftain crew, all 4 crew members were locked inside that tank for 72 hours on the trot. It was part of what they called NBC, or Nuclear Biological Warfare Training. Now, if you can imagine 4 of your family, or whoever you're here with today, locking yourself in the smallest room of your house at home, and that means eating, drinking, all your bodily functions, all in full view of each other, you can understand why a tank crew's got to get on. Nowhere inside a tank you can have an argument and go storming off to your bedroom. So again, it's part and parcel of that being disciplined and being trained. So in a very confined space of the tank, you know what you're doing and you can get on with it. So all part and parcel of the training for a tank crew. Now, the Chieftain came out of service with the British Army in about the early 1990s. We had another tank called Challenger 2, and you can see one of those inside the museum. We're now on a tank called Challenger 2, is the one that we've now got in the new display hall. Very impressive tank. The only issue at the moment is with Challenger 2, we're tending at the moment to use smaller vehicles, especially in campaigns like Afghanistan, where they're counterinsurgency. We're not using our big tanks. At the moment, we're mothballing some of our tanks, but whatever happens, don't believe all the people tell you the age of the tank's dead.